Welcome to Module J in our Garden School's educational programme, From Planting to Growing. Through this module, learners will have the opportunity to engage with a number of activities, including observing and drawing the root system of a plant, tracing the path of water inside a plant, considering the space required by plants to grow healthily, and ongoing care via watering and weeding. These activities will engage with a number of curricular areas, including health and well-being, sciences, expressive arts, and technologies. Let's begin with planting. Planting involves the active process of nestling a little seedling into the ground. When planting, children will revisit and practice earlier ideas about what happens in the soil. Central considerations when planting include physical space, both above and below the ground, watering, access to light, competition for nutrients. Planting can therefore be extremely fruitful in terms of learning experiences. Some of the following activities are planned to help children engage with some of these ideas and develop their knowledge and understanding of planting and growing further. As a starting point, it is important to support learners to understand the importance of roots and root systems. But what do roots look like? And what do they do? The first activity in this module has been designed to support learning about root systems. This activity involves planting a broad bean in a transparent container. Every child could do this, or a class bean can be planted. It should be planted in such a way that it can be seen through the container, so up against the side. As the roots begin to grow, the children should be encouraged to observe how the roots grow, an important skill for science and life. Asking the children to document the growth via detailed observational drawings can work very well. Alternatively, or additionally, technology can be used to record the growth in a way that can be watched back. As the children observe and discuss the roots, they might compare root systems to other natural or man-made phenomena. If you plant multiple beans, it can be interesting to compare the roots and discuss why some might be growing more quickly than others. Is that bean getting more light, more water? What happens to beans that aren't in the light, aren't watered? This activity can lend itself to a number of different explorations. Let's go on to think about water. Water is the most immediate source of nourishment for the plant. But how is it used by plants? How does it travel from the roots to the tip of the leaves or flowers? The second activity in this module is called Tracing the Water Journey. Helping children to understand how water moves from the soil up through a plant can be very powerful. This can be done with some celery and food colouring. Cut a stem of celery and place it into a container of water with a few drops of food colouring. Stronger colours like blue and red work best. Over time, the coloured water will travel up the xylem. This is a fun word that children usually enjoy learning to pronounce. This activity can lend itself to lots of discussions and explorations. It is particularly fulfilling to support the children to imagine the inside of a plant or a tree growing in the school grounds or their home and map how the water moves. It can also lead to some nice dramatic representations of the process, with children pretending to be water molecules moving through a plant or a tree. Again, bringing the arts and science together. Let's talk about space. All plants need enough physical space to get the benefit of light. They also need a sufficient volume of soil to grow healthily and gain access to the water and nutrients they need. When planning what to grow in the school grounds, you need to consider the space available. This may take the form of raised beds, containers, or digging into the ground directly. One way of involving children in this process and developing their math skills is to use the square foot gardening concept, where the areas are split into 1 foot squares and each pupil is allocated a space. The learners can then research how much room their chosen seeds and seedlings will need to be able to obtain enough nutrition to grow in the space and plan and plant accordingly. So this process isn't seen as a solo endeavour, and to ensure the class work together, the concept of companion planting can be introduced here. Some plants do well being beside each other, while some will not thrive if planted with certain other crops. For example, nasturtiums attract aphids and are a sacrifice crop, meaning that the main vegetable crop will hopefully be available to be eaten by the pupils and not by the insects. Use a companion planting chart to see which crops they suggest grow well together, and the class planting can be arranged so beneficial crops can be grown in the spaces available. This idea of support and assistance could be used for children to tell stories or research examples of how people and things can help each other. The idea of space and spacing might also be stimulated by watching a short clip. There are many available online of gardeners and farmers sowing seeds. You will find that in most cases that seeds are planted carefully and that the gardeners and farmers usually use spacers to help them to ensure their seeds have the best opportunity to grow into healthy plants. Watching the clip without any sound can help the children to generate questions about why the gardeners and farmers are spacing out their seeds and seedlings. After watching the clip, encourage the children to ask their questions and ponder the responses. Connections can be made with the human body and what might happen if we don't have enough space or nutrients that we need to grow healthily. And finally, for this module anyway, we're going to talk about growing. Ideally, the children should get the opportunity to plant at least one seed or seedling and take ownership over its growth. To build upon the learning throughout this module, the children should be encouraged to develop a plan regarding where they would like to plant their own seed or seedling. This plan should take the factors they have been learning about into consideration, including space and water. The children should be encouraged to take ownership over the process and develop a rationale for their planting plan. This could be done orally or pictorially to encourage wider participation. Once planted, the children should be encouraged to take care of their seed or growing plant, remembering to water it, monitor the area for weeds, etc. As is normally the case, some seeds will grow well, others will not. This can lead to further learning and discussion.